Hello and welcome to The Crime Reel. For today's true crime narration, we shall be visiting Hollywood to look at the traumatic life of Cheryl Crane. Whilst being the child of a rich and famous movie star must come with extreme privilege, it is often the case that such luxury comes with a heavy price, and that was certainly the case for Cheryl Crane. Cheryl was born on the 25th of July 1943 to movie star Lana Turner and restaurateur husband Stephen Crane. Cheryl's start in life was far from easy when, due to incompatibility with her mother's Rh blood factor, her life swayed in the balance for nearly 2 months. Lana was most definitely not a hands-on mother, and Cheryl spent much of her early years with her nanny. Lana, meanwhile, lived a glamorous lifestyle far from her own humble beginnings. She was born Julia Jean Mildred Frances Turner on the 8th of February 1920 in Wallace, Idaho. She was the only child of John Virgil Turner and Mildred Frances Cowan, who was just 16 years old when Lana was born. The family struggled for money and relocated to San Francisco when Lana was 6 years old, and soon after her parents separated. On December the 14th, 1930, Lana's father won some money at a travelling craps game. He hid his winnings in his left sock and headed for home. He was later found bludgeoned to death on the corner of Minnesota and Mariposa streets with his left shoe and sock missing. His murder was never solved, and his premature death had a profound effect on 10-year-old Lana. Lana's mother often worked 80 hours a week to try to make ends meet, and Lana would often spend time living with family friends whilst her mother tried to save money. It was during one of these stays that Lana was abused, and soon after, her mother decided to make the move to Los Angeles in search of a better life. It was here that Lana's dreams of becoming an actress were born, and she began searching for movie roles. At the age of 17, she had small parts in the movies They Won't Forget, The Great Garrick, and the 1937 version of A Star Is Born. The following year, she had a small part on the 1938 film Love Finds Andy Hardy, starring Mickey Rooney, and she became known as the Sweater Girl for her immense beauty and on-screen charisma. By the time Cheryl was born, she had progressed to being one of the highest paid actresses in the United States and one of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's biggest stars. Whilst her film career went from strength to strength, her private life would often overshadow her professional accomplishments. Over the course of her life, she was married 8 times, including twice to Cheryl's father, Stephen Crane. She battled with alcoholism and went through the ordeal of 3 stillbirths in 1949, 51 and 56, all as a result of complications due to her blood. Cheryl had a series of stepfathers during her life and, in her memoirs, would refer back to both of her parents as having driven personalities, vain, gifted, selfish and wild, adding that she was enthralled by them, but I lived at a distance, their princess in a tower. She said that she had a lonely childhood and would often slip out of bed to watch her mother and her glamorous friends from a distance. Far more sinister was the abuse which Cheryl suffered at the hands of some of her mother's friends and lovers. In Cheryl's memoirs, she states that the movie star Fernando Lamas would swim naked in front of her when they were alone, and that a nanny touched her inappropriately and nibbled her ear. She goes on to state that Tarzan star Lex Barker, Lana's 4th husband, first sexually abused her in the family sauna when she was only 10 years old, and he then continued to violently abuse her throughout his marriage to her mother. When Cheryl eventually told her mother, Lana immediately went home and held a gun to Lex's head while he was sleeping. She woke him and kicked him out of the house. However, it was Lana's relationship with Johnny Stompanato which would cause the headlines that would stay with the family forever. In the spring of 1957, Lana was shooting the film The Lady Takes a Flyer in Los Angeles. During this time, she began receiving phone calls and flowers by a man using the name of John Steele. John Steele was actually 32-year-old Johnny Stompanato, a mobster with close ties to the Los Angeles underworld and gangster Mickey Cohen. He feared that if Lana knew the truth of who he was, she would not date him. He aggressively pursued her, showering her with gifts and attention, and the pair soon began dating. When Lana found out his true identity, she confronted him and ended their relationship. However, Johnny was not a man who gave up easily, and he wore Lana down. The relationship continued, but became ever more violent. It was marked by a cycle of violent arguments, physical abuse, and repeated reconciliation. It has been claimed that Johnny drugged Lana, and when she was unconscious, took nude photographs of her to use as blackmail. Whilst filming Another Time, Another Place with Sean Connery in London in September 1957, Johnny visited Lana in England. As had become somewhat of a pattern, the visit started well, but soon took a turn, with eventually Johnny violently choking Lana and holding a razor to her face and threatening to disfigure her. When Johnny turned up on set, he was confronted by Sean Connery, who protected his co-star Lana. The police were then involved, and Johnny left the country the following day. Yet again, the couple reconciled and spent January and February of the following year holidaying in Acapulco. However, things took another dramatic turn when Lana attended the Academy Awards on the 26th of March 1958, taking her daughter Cheryl and her mother Mildred as her guests. Johnny was furious that Lana had not taken him with her and waited at the house until she returned, whereupon he physically assaulted her. A few days later, Lana and Cheryl moved into a new rental home on North Bedford Drive in Beverly Hills. Then, on the 4th of April, Lana and 14-year-old Cheryl went on a shopping trip, during which Lana told Cheryl that she planned to end her relationship with Johnny that evening once and for all, stating that it's going to be a rough night. When Johnny arrived that evening, he and Lana got into a heated argument in the bedroom. Cheryl, who was watching television in the adjacent room, could hear everything, and when Johnny threatened to kill Lana, Cheryl and Mildred, Cheryl rushed to the kitchen, grabbed a knife and rushed to her mother's defence. As Lana attempted to get Johnny out of the bedroom, Cheryl was waiting at the door. She stabbed Johnny once in the stomach. Johnny looked at her and said, "My God, Cheryl, what have you done?" Cheryl ran out of the room, placed a knife on the table and rushed to phone her father. Meanwhile, Lana called for a doctor who attempted to revive Johnny, but without success. Johnny was pronounced dead at the scene. In the early hours of the 5th of April, Cheryl turned herself into the police and was held at Juvenile Hall. By this time, Lana and Stephen had retained celebrity attorney Jerry Giesler to represent Cheryl. Due to Lana's fame, the case was quickly involved in a media frenzy, with many speculating as to what had actually happened that night. It was confirmed that Johnny had died from a single stab wound that penetrated his liver, portal vein and aorta, resulting in massive internal hemorrhaging. An inquest was held on the 12th of April 1958. There were over 100 reporters and journalists present, with the atmosphere being described as being near riotous. Lana testified as to the events surrounding Johnny's death. She said that she had initially thought that Cheryl had punched Johnny, only realising that he had been stabbed when he collapsed to the floor covered in blood. Lana appeared to be on the brink of collapse throughout the time that she gave evidence. After a total of just 4 hours of testimony and 25 minutes of deliberation, the 12-member coroner's jury unanimously deemed that the killing was a justifiable homicide, absolving Cheryl and Lana of any wrongdoing. However, many questioned this decision. Outside the courtroom, a friend of Johnny's said, "It's a lie. The girl was in love with him. There was jealousy between her and her mother. He was a gentleman." Numerous publications questioned whether Lana's courtroom appearance was her best acting performance of her life, and conspiracy theories circulated that it was actually Lana who had stabbed Johnny to death. Johnny's family sought a wrongful death suit in the sum of $750,000 against Lana and Cheryl's father, Stephen Crane. In the suit, Johnny's son alleged that Lana had been responsible for the death and that Cheryl had taken the blame. The suit was settled in May 1962, reportedly for $20,000. Despite being cleared of any crime, Cheryl's ordeal was far from over. She had to remain a ward of the court until a juvenile court hearing was held 12 days later. At this point, the judge expressed concern over proper parental supervision, and at Cheryl's request, she was released into the care of her grandmother and ordered to regularly visit a psychiatrist along with her parents. Cheryl ran away from her grandmother's, was put in boarding school, and then ran away again. She began abusing alcohol and pills and attempted suicide on 2 separate occasions. However, at 21, she started working with her father at his restaurant in Hollywood, the Luau. Over the next 15 years, she would turn her life around, eventually becoming vice president of the successful hospitality company. She would later become a real estate agent, married her partner of 40 years, and it is believed she now lives in Palm Springs. In her 1988 autobiography, she discussed the killing for the first time, stating that she had killed Johnny and claiming that he had been sexually abusing her. Lana died on the 25th of June 1995 after a long battle with throat cancer. She was 74 years old. Still, conspiracy theories remained, exacerbated when Eric Root, a hairdresser of Lana's, claimed in a 1996 memoir that Lana had confessed to him that she had stabbed Johnny during their domestic struggle. She reportedly said to him, "I killed the son of a bitch and I would do it again." He added that Lana had urged him to reveal this to the public should she die before him in order to clear her daughter's name. However, Cheryl denied this claim, stating that his book is so far-fetched. You know, everybody has something they want to sell. I guess it was the only way he could get his book published. So what do you think? Did Cheryl lie or kill to protect her mother? I'd love to hear your theories in the comments section below. Just to let you know, I'm going to Tenerife in the Canary Islands for a holiday for a week. As I fly on Wednesdays, it's unlikely I will be able to reply to many of the comments, and also I may not be able to get the next video ready in time. So please remember to click the subscribe button, including the bell icon, to not miss the next or future cases. Adios. Thanks very much for listening to The Crime Reel. Stay safe. Goodbye. Psst. As well as Cheryl's autobiography, she has also written other books. This is what I found on a search on the Amazon website. Thanks and goodbye.